Well, hello, bookish friends. Listen, I had to do it. I had to do my first mini book haul, and I got some of everything. Listen, y'all gonna love it. I got fantasy, romance, nonfiction, historical fiction. I just got some of everything. But before we get into that, I'm going to do my January wrap up and show you all the books I've read so far in January. You girls been rolling. I've been rolling with it, getting it done, okay? Who else? Who else been reading? And then stay to the end because you'll also see a reading journal update. So let's get into the video. All right, so just so you can see them all at once. Hello! I told you. I've been reading, okay? So, listen, the first book I read for the new year, I started out with nonfiction. And I like to start out with nonfiction with like productivity books, personal development, personal growth. So the first two books I read this year have been nonfiction. You may have heard of them or seen them. These have been out for a while. So let's take a look. So the first one was The 12-Week Year. I did do a couple videos on this book. I rated it about 3.75 because when you're dealing with personal development books, I say this all the time, you have to read through the fluff because a lot of things you may have heard of or heard about, or concepts that you may have been introduced to, right? But you may have not put into practice. Let's just put it that way. But you have some good nuggets in this book. As you can see, I tabbed this book a lot. When you get to part 2, like the second portion of the book, it does get repetitive. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit because I'm like, you could have made the book shorter. It does not, you don't have to reach to page 188, the fluff, and get what you need out of the book. But it's still a good read. It still gives you some insight on what you need to do. But you can kind of look up the summary to get the gist of that, okay? All right. The second book I read in January was Relentless. Okay, Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable by Tim S. Grover. And I forgot to give you this subtitle. Get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. That's what this book about, and it's two authors, Brian P. Morin and Michael Lennington. This one is by Tim S. Grover. This book is he's like a coach. If you haven't watched, I have a video called like Half Empty, Half Full. You need to go watch it because I give like kind of more of a breakdown or my take on it, but he give it to you straightforward. He gonna be like, sis, ma'am, bro, yo, get in shape. What are you doing with your life? Get it together and do it now. Be relentless. And he's going to give examples from training Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. So if you are a sports fan or follow sports such as basketball, NBA, you will get his references. He does kind of do a co-tangent or kind of does a tangent reflection for organizations, business owners, and things of that such. But I rated this a 4-star. It's a great book. I will recommend it. Yeah, so that's that. The third book I read was my first Freedom McFadden book, Never Lie. This book was very good to me. It was easy to read. I gave it a 4-star ratings. And, you know, I saw mixed reviews on this book, but for me, it was good. I love psychological thrillers. I really enjoy, I didn't realize how much I enjoy reading them. Mystery, suspense. You get all the goods in here, and it doesn't take long to knock out her books. And the characters in here follows 2 females, and you get both viewpoints. That's one thing I did notice about her book, which I'm going to talk about when I get to the last one I read of hers. But I do love that she gives 2 different perspectives, 2 different viewpoints. She does it in this book. You get a Dr. Adrian Hale's viewpoint, and then you get one of her former patients' viewpoint. I hope that's not spoiler for somebody, but the other viewpoint is coming from a patient, which you later find out in the book. Okay, the next book I read, which was the fourth book for 2025, January, this month, was Razor Blade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Again, this was another new author to me. First book I read of his, 5 stars. This was the only 5-star book this month. The only one. I'm telling you, it is as good as the hype. I've seen a lot of people recommend this. If you don't follow Chocolate Covered Pages, Aaliyah, that's ALIA with the hearts, Desmond Z, Smitty1423, they give some great books. DJ Reed's, like, oh, the bookish community is just awesome. I love y'all because y'all give some great recommendations, but this lived up to the hype. He writes so well. He's so descriptive, so detailed, because he in this book you follow 2 fathers who's on like this revenge or vengeance quest, but while they're on that revenge quest, they're also reflecting on how they treated their sons who were partners together, who were married. And so it's just a great thrill. It's action packed. After chapter 6 for me, it just started going, boom, 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 boom. Like, I mean, it's nonstop until the end. And I didn't want to put it down. I would literally read any and everything of his. I'll support this author as well. The next book I read, which was my 5th book of January 2025, was Toni Morrison. If you're still watching, listen, stay tuned so you can get to the book haul. Stay tuned. Don't lose. Come here. Don't leave yet. Okay? Stay with your girl. Stay with your girl. But this is the 5th book I read. I did not quite enjoy this book. I did rate it 2 stars just in my personal journal. But I love Toni Morrison. I love her as a person, who she was, what she represented, her literary work. I literally have about 5 books of hers, and I will read all of them eventually. It wasn't her as an author as the reason necessarily that I didn't quite, it was hard to read. I almost DNF'd it, but I don't like DNF books, which I most likely will try not to do because I want to appreciate each author's work. And that's a big point for me that I would like to express. With me, I can read differences of opinions, perspectives, cultures, authors, and things of that nature. That's the beauty. And you don't have to agree with everyone when they give a review or they give you their insight, what they pulled from the book. Take beauty. Everyone's not going to agree with you. You have to grow up out of that. Okay? It's okay. It's okay. We learn from each other. We grow from each other. But listen, the chapter started out with like these little, I don't know, like songs or rhymes that are put together in words, and I have to like slowly make out. Listen, I have glasses. I need the words. But the premise, there are a few themes and messages you can pull from this book. Parents, it is good, especially the first chapter. Man, this is the first book from the child's point of view. And so you kind of get that throughout the whole book, how the children are feeling, what they're experiencing. And this is in a time where it was very rough. You know, the parents dealing with things, and they're trying to, they have habits that are kind of passed down, which we still see today. But we know why that exists, right? But at some point we have to learn, we have to get better, we have to check ourselves. But it ended with her, one of the kids having blue eyes, and it was one girl who was just dark and not treated well because other people thought she was ugly, and she figured, if I get these blue eyes, I could be pretty. It just didn't do it for me. But it's not the literary work itself, if I can say that. But I will be reading all her works. Go support Toni. Shout out to her, R.I.P. The next book I read, this was the 6th book I read, Good Company. This is by Cynthia D. Sweeney. I rated this a 4. So this has mixed ratings because it's written from you read it from the third point of view. Okay, it's not a direct character you're necessarily who's telling the story, and you're getting that point of view like Frida McFadden's. But it was still a good read for me. It was an easy read. It was about actors and actresses and their husbands and wives and how they navigate the acting world. You had one couple who was a little more successful and one who wasn't. And one of the ladies that were a supporting character in this, her husband was actually a doctor. She didn't marry an actor, but the one who was struggling throughout the book, who the main character is, her and her husband both were actors. And so it talks about them moving between and out of being a voice actor or working with a theater company versus on TV shows. And their she finds out the husband been sleeping with a castmate. It's just a lot in this, but it's still easy to read, beautifully written. I literally bought this from Dollar General. You can go see that video. Okay. Shameless plug if you haven't already. And it was a cover buy for me. It was only $5 and it was a good read. I enjoyed it. And the book I literally just finished today was The Housemaid. This was my 7th book. This was so good. I was like, I'm jumping right into this. This is going to be my 8th book. So by Friday, I would have 8 books read for January 2025. And Frida, she did not disappoint in this book. Now, I did rate it 4 stars. This was like everybody hyped this book. Now, as far as expectation to reality, it was like a 3 for me because I expected it to be even better, if you will, well written. But it's really a good book. So many twists and turns by the time you get to part 2. You like, okay, who is doing the torturing? It's crazy. You found out the wife is being tortured. She treats the housemaid she hires so horribly. And I'm like, it couldn't be me. It couldn't be you. You would have been like, lady, you better go somewhere. I'm done today. I'm walking out of here. But this girl stayed, and then you kind of get walked through why she stayed, dealing with what she was dealing with. Then she finds out secrets about the wife and the husband, and they find out secrets about her. It just goes on and on, and so many twists and turns. And it was so good that I'm going straight into this because I'm not going to read it, probably the 3rd one, until March, because I have other books that I'm going to read. So stay tuned for my February TBR. Stay tuned for that. Okay, because yeah, I'm going to put titles in a jar and pick them. Okay, but this was a pretty good read as well. Okay, so those are the books that I read, and I kept you long enough. So thank you for watching thus far. But let's get into this book haul and see what new books that I've got. All right, so the first book I got, and these books I want to read for February, but for my next video, I'm going to put some titles in the jar, all the books that I want to read for February, and pick about 6 of them. About 6 to 7, because the books I want to read, some of them are really thick. They're about 5. It's at least 3 of them that's over 500 pages, and I'm like, oh, it might take a minute. So I may actually only get 4 to 6 books in February, but we'll see. But I may pick about 7 of them. We'll see, 6 or 7. All right. But the first book I ordered and got was James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. If you follow Shelby in the club, her book club is reading this for February, and I thought it was very interesting, and I want to pick it up. I've seen where it says it's basically almost like biographical fiction. I was about to say Christian. Biographical fiction. And it says, Mountain, James Baldwin said, is the book I had to write if I was ever going to write anything else. Baldwin's first major work, Go Tell It on the Mountain, has established itself as an American classic. So I'm excited to get into this. It says, with lyrical precision, psychological directness, resonating symbolic power, and a rage that is once unrelenting and compassionate. Baldwin chronicles a 14-year-old boy's discovery one Saturday in March 1935 of the terms of his identity as the stepson of a minister of a storefront Pentecostal church in Harlem. So I'm excited to get into this. Next book I ordered was The Personal Librarian. And this is by Mary Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray, or Murray, however she pronounces it. But this is a novel about J.P. Morgan's personal librarian, Belle DeCosta Green, the Black American woman who was forced to hide her true identity and pass as white in order to leave a lasting legacy that enrich our nation. I believe this is more so historical fiction, and so I'm excited to get this. This was also one of the highly recommended books to read this year. Next, I've got The World as I See It by Albert Einstein, and this is more so a it's a scientific read, and it's nonfiction. It's a collection of Albert Einstein's works and thoughts and perspectives on science, religion, society, and things of that nature. So I'm so excited to get into this. I've been wanting to read this, so that's another nonfiction read for me this year. And then for romance, we have none other than Miss Kennedy Ryan. A lot of people read this before I let go. This is actually a series. This is the first book in the series, so some of you may have already read it. I didn't know about Kennedy Ryan until November-ish. November or December till I watched Chocolate Cover Pages. So thank you, girl. Kiona, love her. But I was so excited to get into Kennedy Ryan. I loved her interview that Chocolate Cover Pages, aka Kiona, did with Kennedy, and so I said I gotta read her work. So I do have Real by her, but I also picked up this first one. I will get the next one, but I most likely won't get to the second read in February, probably not to March, so I'll pick up the second one around that time. And the last book in my book haul is none other than The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is my first fantasy book. Can you believe it? I don't read fantasy, but this is the first one, and I'm so excited to read it. It's a thick one. It's over 500 pages. Yeah, it's well over 500 pages. It's thick, but the cover is gorgeous. So excited to read this. This was highly recommended by Smitty1423. If you're a booktuber, you should know who Smitty is. He's like the guy to go to when talking about fantasy. He talks about Brandon Sanders, and he did an interview with Evan. It was a great interview, so definitely want to support. It's another Black male author who wanted to have something in fantasy for his son that his son can see himself in. So excited to read this. Also, don't forget to check out Dorate Lamar's work, my husband's work. He also has some things coming as well that's in that sci-fi genre, fantasy genre, if you will. So I'm excited for his books to come out on that when he finishes it. But okay, so that's the book haul, and that's all that I read in January. Let me know what you're reading in January, or what you have read in January, and I'll go watch your video and like and comment as well. And if you haven't subscribed, come on, join the Darnaya Darice crew, because we keep rising over here. We elevate, we promote positivity, we share what we're reading, what we're doing, lifestyle hacks, personal development, personal growth, motivation, just all the things, okay? Put a smile on your face and walk in grace, okay? If you would. Hello. But I appreciate for those who have been watching my videos, commenting and liking. Thank you so much. And yeah, before we leave out, I'll just give you a quick glimpse of my reading journal, so you can have a reading journal update on the way out. And I'll catch you on my February TBR video, which is coming out later this week. Today is Tuesday, January 28th, when I'm taping this. Yeah. So my February TBR video will be coming out, so you can see what I'm actually going to read. All right, beautiful people. So here is my reading journal. I did a flip through of this reading journal in December on my planner video, where you can see the 4 planners, so you can check that out for a full flip through. But I love this reading journal. It's by Wrong, R-O-N-G. She's also on YouTube, where you can see her work, but she hand draws everything, all the images you see in this as far as these and things and the dashboards. But as you see, I've been keeping track. I made my TBR dashboard here. I've been keeping track of what I read when I read it. I also keep a little bookshelf of what I read, and I'm changing up the color scheme, so that's why you see different colors. I also been keeping track of how many pages I read on average a day, which I read, and how many minutes I read each day, which I read on average about 2 to 3 hours. Yesterday I had a good 4 hours in, so I do keep track of that. I also made myself a personal bingo. Love it, filling it in. And then here I was printing out the covers, but it's so small, and I'm like, forget it, I'll just write it in. So that's what you see me doing here. And then I also made an ABC challenge in my book journal, which I filled in some. Okay, but I hope to get that done. That's a fun challenge. I'm not necessarily doing the 100 challenge, but I may end up reading a lot of books. Once I finish the housemaid at the end of this week, I'll add that cover here as well. And then I have my reviews here, and as you can see, you know, got all of them there. So yeah, I've been loving this journal, and here in this spot I have to write it, but it's pretty much going to be razor blade tears as my top for January, and then I'm going to keep track of that. Just be. Don't